through, they have been in rooms that were on fire before, different kinds of fire. Mm-hmm. But this isn't a new situation to them, right? And that is one of the things also that we can say to ourselves when we're going through shit, right? Whether it's this pandemic or it's this downturn in your business or it's this, employee who stole from you or whatever, you go, this is practice. This is reps, right? Like, I am going to emerge out of the other side of this a person who has been through things like this. And if you haven't before, if this is the first time, maybe you won't handle it great, but you can decide to be the person who has learned from that process.
I guess the danger is I go through it once and it's so horrific that I avoid all circumstances or environments where I might ever go through such a thing again. Yes.
So you've emerged weaker and more fragile for what you've gone through, which is probably not the way to do it. I've said this to people. It's like, hey, we just lived through this massive historical event together. And we're here. Like, we made it, It's not to say anything about the people who didn't make it. What I mean is, like, we got through it. If you had asked that person in March 2020 if they could get through 3 years of a pandemic, millions of people died, where everything was shut down, where there was political unrest and supply chain and logistics crises, and everyone had to work from home, and down the list of all that stuff, even just half of it, they would have said, like, so I lost everything, right? Like, like, it destroyed me, right? I don't have what it takes to get through that. But you did, because you didn't get through all of it at once. It was one thing after another, and you adjusted and you adapted and you got stronger as you went. And you just realize as you go through things, exactly what Seneca says, like, the person who hasn't been tested doesn't know. But when you have been tested, when you have gone through things, you can take from that a sense of your capacities, your capabilities, which are almost always greater than you think they are. And so it's just a way to go through life. You don't want it to be that way. You would prefer that it didn't happen that way, that the things went the way they were supposed to go, but they didn't. And now they are the way that they are. And now I have to call this person to my office and let them go. Mm-hmm. Now I have to suddenly raise X millions of dollars to keep the business going if we're going to have any hope of surviving, and I've got 30 days to do it, right? Like, the situation is the situation, and what is it going to teach me? How am I going to grow from it? How am I going to be better for it?
I was watching a video you made about sort of stoic questions that are really important to ask ourselves, I guess, to keep us on track to some degree. What kind of questions do you find yourself frequently asking yourself to help keep yourself on track?
Yeah, I mean, the big one that I ask myself the most as a parent is, I just go, does this matter? Like, why? Does this thing matter? Like, is this thing that I'm about to argue with them or force them to do or feel insecure about, does it actually matter, right? And the answer is almost always no, it doesn't matter. It's made up. 5 more minutes is fine, right? In the big scheme of things, I won't care about this. And so I try to ask myself questions that give me perspective, that take me out of whatever my immediate impulse is, or insecurity is, or worry is, or argument is, and I try to get perspective. And I think that's what great questions do, is they give you perspective, different way of seeing things that you can then hopefully act on.
What do the Stoics say about, like, relationships and romantic relationships and love?
I mean, what they say about them to me is secondary to the fact that they were also in them, right? Like, it's one thing to be a philosopher, and then it's another to get married to a person who you now live with, who does things that drive you crazy, and you do things that drive them crazy. And you have resentments, and you have insecurities, and you have compromises that you have to make, right? I remember my wife said to me one time, this is a great question or a great way of thinking about it. I said she was frustrating me, and she's kicked back a very stoic idea. She said, a person, she said, I can't frustrate you. She was basically saying, like, we're responsible for our own emotions. Like, she's doing what she's doing, and I am feeling the frustration. I can't make that her fault, right? And I think about that often, right? Like,
Does she weaponize stoicism against you?
yes, all the time. Her joke is, one of us is a stoic and the other writes about stoicism. She is much more naturally these things than I am, I would say. But, you know, it's the idea that how you make it work, not in theory, not in your books, is the whole business, you know? Like, I think every person who's ever been married or in a relationship, you know, you get yourself in these situations where you've decided that being right is more important than being happy or than getting along or
Sounds like Twitter.
moving on. Yeah, right. Yeah, you're just like, what are you doing? You know, you're putting this thing over the relationship. Twitter's its own set of philosophical issues. You just watch people voluntarily seek out conflict and things to be upset about. Like, if they didn't see the tweet, it wouldn't bother them.
Yeah.
But they picked it up. They're supposed to be having dinner with someone they care about. They're supposed to be working, supposed to be playing with their kids. But instead, they took up the phone and they scrolled through. And the phone, which knows that things that outrage you are the ones that get the most engagement, magically serves up the outrage. And then you are outraged. And you cannot go back to what you were doing until you let this person know, this person you've never met, that they are wrong and you are right. You know, and that is the opposite of philosophy, happiness, the good life.
Sam Harris said he deleted it from his phone for this very reason last year. He doesn't tweet anymore. It's not involved in Twitter because he said, when I looked at the relationship I had with this device, it was just causing me unhappiness. He says every bad thing, every professional crisis I've had started with Twitter.
Mm-hmm. And have you ever once gone on it or any of the apps, whether you spent 5 seconds or 50 minutes, and thought, that was a great use of my time. I'm really glad I did that. You know, you always feel a little guilty after. You go, ooh, that went back faster than I thought. And again, I'm not saying that there's not a place for these things, that they don't do some good. I mean, maybe someone is watching a clip of this thing literally right in this instance, and that's better than, you know, us trying to sit here and pander to one side or incite the other. There's definitely some people do it better than other people or worse than other people. But for the most part, how do you create distance and boundaries that separate you from these things? So yeah, I don't have any of them on my phone either. And I don't know the password to the Daily Stoic or my personal Twitter account. So if there's something I need to say, I can talk to someone who works for me and make sure that gets out. And then maybe I can ask, you know, hey, how did it go? But for the most part, I have enough inputs. You know what I mean? I have enough inputs. I don't need more random people. This is the most important space that you have, you know, and how protective of it are you? And cultivating a stillness or a space, a distance from that, to me, is like the most important thing.
You've read so much. You write so much. You have the wisdom of someone who has lived many, many lives.
That's what reading is, by the way. You know what I mean? Reading is maybe the only way that you can live multiple lives. Like, you think about the millions of people who have done crazy things, groundbreaking things, terrible things. And you think of all that wisdom. It's all there in books. And, you know, it's $10. Sometimes it's $1.
Isn't it funny how similar the wisdom is, though?
Yeah, I think the more you read, you come up with some sort of themes. It boils down Eastern and Western philosophy, kind of like a horseshoe. You know, they come together towards the ends. But
what are those themes? What are the themes of living a good life that I must know?
First would be, let's say you focus on what's in your control, like
Focusing
what's
on
up to you.
Okay, what does that mean in practicality, in day-to-day life? So someone cuts me off in traffic.
Yeah, somebody doesn't like something that you did. The weather. You know, How much of your energy are you spending emoting about, complaining about, worrying about things that are not up to you?
And is there any particular examples from Stoicism where?
Well, Epictetus is like, that's our first job in life, is to separate things into two categories. Is this up to me or is this not up to me? And it's a resource allocation issue, right? Like if you are focusing your energy, even half of it, on stuff that's not up to you, that's half your energy that's not being focused on the stuff you can make a difference on. It's like, that'd be like putting 50% of the power of your car on the wheels that aren't touching the ground. You know, like you want to put it where it's going to get traction. That's a key thing in life. Is this up to you or not? Number two, there's something magical about water, and there's something magical about long walks. This is where we find a lot of peace, we find a lot of inspiration, we find a lot of calmness and stillness. Like, I'm not saying that taking a walk will solve all of your problems. I'm just saying that there's very few problems that are made worse by taking a walk. Same goes for jumping in the swimming pool or the ocean.
What is it about those two things that you believe?
I mean, look, I think we evolved traveling very long distances. I mean, some of the oldest evidence of human beings in America are a set of footprints of a mother carrying and setting down a child 20,000 years ago in what is now White Sands, New Mexico. Like, that's just what we've been doing for as long as there have been people. And there's something about the rhythm of it, the movement of it, that slows us down, forces us to think, makes us very present. It's just magic. And I think there's a reason that every religious tradition or Zen garden has a water fountain or something. You know, there's just something about the sound of water.
It's so true. All of my best ideas either come usually in the gym or in the shower.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do a lot of walking because
You got it.
But in the gym and the shower, I seem to get my epiphany moments.
Yes. Taking a break from what you're doing to go do one of those things often unlocks a lot of stuff.
Okay. And you have that as a ritual every day?
Every day. Yeah.
Every single day?
Yeah. I try to take a walk every day.
What else are sort of rituals in your life? The daily rituals?
So I would add as a third one, as a ritual, I'd say like do something hard every day. Like do something physically difficult every day. The art of challenging oneself and pushing those limits and boundaries. That is a essential practice and skill that will help you whatever life has in store for you.
And is that the third one on this list?
Yeah,
of 5?
I'll make that the third.
Okay, love that one. So do something difficult every day, and that ranges from as small as not eating the cheeseburger to as big as running a marathon.
Yeah, I mean, not eating the cheeseburger. That's not. I wouldn't put that. I wouldn't go, hey, like I really challenged myself today. I didn't eat garbage. I would say it's like, here's the positive thing that I did. Right, like I lifted heavy rocks. Okay. You know, I did some sprinting. I went for a bike ride. You know, I went for a run. I took a spin class. You know, whatever it is. The walk doesn't count. The walk is for the mental health. Then you got to do something for the physical health. Okay, so 4, I think we have to put something here about like we are made for each other, right? The idea of meaning comes from servicing or contributing to the common good. Marcus Aurelius talks about the common good maybe 40, 50 times in meditations. You know, he says like we're put here for other people. Our job is to help others, to, you know, leave this place better than leave this place better than you found it. To me, that's the meaning of life right there. So what is the positive contribution? What is the legacy you're leaving? Not how much money did you make? You know, what records did you break? But what is the contribution you are making to the collective? That's meaning and purpose and, quite frankly, your obligation as a human being.
Service. others.
service. And then the fifth one